And time to take a look at what's been making headlines across the globe. For that today, I'm joined here in the studio by Alison Sargent, and we're starting in New Zealand, Alison, where papers, of course, are marking that one-week anniversary of those horrific attacks at two mosques in Christchurch.
That's right, Annette. We're seeing a lot of very powerful front pages out of New Zealand today. We can start with a local paper from Christchurch, The Press. They have just a one-word headline in Arabic today, Salam, or peace, and underneath they list the names and ages of all 50 people who were killed in those attacks. We see their names and ages again on the front page of the Dominion Post, a paper out of Wellington. The paper writes, "Today we remember." They also list a time, 1:32 p.m. That's when New Zealanders held 2 minutes of silence this Friday in honor of the victims. It's also the time of day when the Prime Minister got the email last week warning of the coming attacks. Across New Zealand today, people joined together in Friday prayers, and the New Zealand Herald dedicates its front page to this call to prayer, along with the message, "In unity there is strength."
But it's not all thoughts and prayers, is it, Alison? I mean, New Zealand is also taking some pretty dramatic legal steps to commemorate the victims.
They are. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced a ban on semi-automatic weapons. She had some very moving words as she made this announcement, and we read them on the front page of New Zealand's Southland Times today. Ardern said, "On March 15th, our history changed forever. Now our laws will too." Many around the world have been noting what a powerful gesture this is, especially when it sits in such stark contrast to the lack of action we've seen in the United States after similar massacres. We see that illustrated here in this cartoon from Newsday, which is a local paper out of New York. We see there the New Zealand kiwi bird is flying free while the American eagle remains a flightless bird. It is chained to the U.S. gun lobby.
Now, heading to the Middle East now for a quick word about the latest announcement from Donald Trump that he wants the US to recognise Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights.
Right, the latest move from the US president favouring Israeli sovereignty when it comes to territory. A Lebanese paper, L'Orient Le Jour, writes, "After Jerusalem, Golan." The paper notes that, like recognising Jerusalem as Israel's capital, this announcement goes against decades of US foreign policy. Israeli paper Haaretz writes that this move was actually very expected, and the timing is obviously for them meant to help boost Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ahead of April's elections. But Haaretz points out that it could actually have the perverse effect of harming Israel diplomatically because it could focus attention onto the Golan Heights. And up until now, the paper says there hasn't been much pressure on Israel to end their presence there. Now that we're all looking at the Golan Heights, that could change.
Moving to the UK, Alison, where preparations for a potential no-deal Brexit are still ramping up, even though the EU has offered Britain a new extension.
That's right, and one of the biggest revelations in these preparations Thursday was that the British Ministry of Defence has activated a nuclear bunker to begin preparing for a potential no deal. Metro News writes that it will be serving as the base for directing 3,500 troops who are going to be on standby in case they need to go out and handle public unrest. Now, this control center has been dubbed Operation Red Fold. It's part of Operation Yellowhammer, which is the government's larger emergency plan. Meanwhile, individual companies have been coming up with emergency plans of their own. Among them is a German company that is the UK's main supplier of toilet paper and paper towels. They've begun stockpiling toilet paper rolls in the UK warehouses. The local Germany here reports that they now have about 3.5 million extra rolls of toilet paper ready to go when the time comes.
Just what you need, obviously. Okay. Change of pace with this story. In Zambia, people may want to start stockpiling a popular energy drink that has just been banned by the government. Now, why is that?
Annette, wait till you hear why it was banned. It was banned because it was found to contain Viagra. Officials tested the drink after men complained of having sustained erections after consuming it. They confirmed that it contains the active ingredient in Viagra, which is, of course, the medicine used to treat erectile dysfunction. Zambian authorities have now banned it, but it's reportedly still available in supermarkets and from street vendors. There's a photo of it there if you're curious. It's sold in many East African countries. I'm not sure if we can get it here in Paris. Ugandan authorities were actually the first to realize that this drink contained Viagra back in December, and sales actually went up when people heard about its side effects.
You couldn't resist doing that, could you? There's so many puns we could use with this story.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
Okay. For those who like their drinks, however, Alison, without a dash of Viagra, an American brewery is dedicating one to US Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And of course, as the host of 51%, I give that one a big thumbs up.
I know, this one does get a thumbs up. It's a Belgian Brut IPA, and it's called When There Are Nine. Now, this name is a reference to a famous quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she was asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? Well, she responded, when there are nine. In other words, when the entire Supreme Court is made up of women. Now, this beer was brewed, you're going to like this, Annette, by a group of all-female brewers on International Women's Day. It's going to be released next week. The Samuel Adams Brewing Company, which makes it, says they originally wanted to name the beer the Brut Bader Ginsburg, but they say in the spirit of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, their legal team dissented.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Alison. And if you want to take a look at the stories that Alison has been talking about, you can, of course, head to our website, that being france24.com.